In our latest episode, Till sits down with Stu Folsom from Las Vegas for a fascinating conversation. Stu shares his journey into music from his early days in Idaho to his current life in Las Vegas. They dive into Stu's experiences with Rodeo in Idaho and how it shaped his perspective on life. The conversation also touches on the topic of physical media versus MP3, with Stu making a strong case for why he prefers vinyl and CDs. As a musician, Stu talks about his guitar playing and shares insights into his musical releases with the bands Folsom and Spirit World. Tune in to hear Stu's stories, insights, and passion for music. Enjoy the episode.
Welcome to the first episode ever of Lowered Expectations, the English-speaking or English version of our music podcast, Schöner, Tiefer, Stapeln. How is your German these days, Stu?
None. I got nothing.
Good. So the original title of the podcast is Schöner, Tiefer, Stapeln, and the German language is beautiful, as you heard right there. It actually means something like tiefer stapeln is a verb for underselling something, underselling an idea, underselling one's value. And schöner tiefer stapeln actually means finding a better way to undersell oneself. So that is kind of not a really good name for a podcast. So I kind of thought, how could I? And then I came up with Lowered Expectations. So that's what we're doing this podcast for. Stu, just introduce yourself real short.
Yo, I'm Stu. I play in a band called Spirit World. I live in Las Vegas. It's summertime, hanging out. What's up?
What's the temperature? We talked about that before. It's more like beautiful. Springtime for you guys right now, right?
Yeah, we got a cold snap, so it's barely getting like 90 degrees.
I know. I worked and lived in Vegas for quite some time, and I know that it can get brutal in the summertime, and it is summer right now. And I think in May it was in the 100 degrees Fahrenheit, which is 42 degrees Celsius, which is unbearable for Germans. How do you how do Las Vegan people or Las Vegans? So what are the people in Las Vegas called actually?
I don't know. People think we don't exist. They think we're all tourists. So I don't think we get a cool name. But no, it's just you get used to it, man. There's little things like I worked outside a lot, and anybody that does, you just kind of realize you got to drink a ton of water the day before, and then you'll sweat out a gallon of water. Like if you work outside all day and you're drinking water, like you never even take a piss because you just sweat it all out. But as long as you start the day, good and hydrated and drink some water, it'll be all right.
Definitely. Vegas was a fun time when I was working and living there, but challenging. I did a lot of hiking, and hiking meant that you just carry a lot of water with you when you go into the desert. All right. We got to talk about so much stuff. I just shortly before this interview went through my record collection and tried to get all the Spirit World stuff that I have gathered over the last 5-6 years, and it's a lot. So I saw that I have about 5 different versions of the Pagan Rhythm album. I got the red cover in about 3 versions, and I got the black and white cover in 2 versions. And that's what I actually never played this on a sound system.
Yeah,
is the Spirit World demo, which came in a beautiful envelope. Which was sealed with like a old timey wax kind of thing. You have always tried to make your releases special and stand out, right?
Yeah, to me, I really love the culture of bands and putting out physical releases. And I know it's an antiquated thing that there's not much of a return on, but for me, like I came up and a time where you just, local bands were making demos and flyers were all handmade. And like there were these things that a human being came and gave you that they took time to create, whether it was to, pamphlet their political ideas at a table at a show or, a zine of basically a journal of their thoughts and fears and dreams. And I guess a piece of that just stays with me that, when somebody takes the time to make something and you can hold it in your hands and touch it and smell it, to me, it adds a little more weight to the thing. And I feel like things are so easy with everybody's got a computer and an amp sim and a, drum program, and you can start a band and upload a demo in a weekend that sounds, perfectly fine and dandy. But I think when you have something that you can tell somebody put a lot of work into all the details, to me, that just seems like, I just like a seriousness to the way that I make art. I like to look at things through a lens of, am I doing this to a level that I'd be impressed by, or at least respect the effort, even if it's a style, or you may not like everything, but you can always respect somebody's, love that they put into things. So I kind of start projects from that foundational, starting point.
And I think that's a really good mindset. And I think a lot of people have lost that. I mean, we're both from older generation, maybe me a little bit older than you, but we are still coming from a period where in the scene, it doesn't matter what scene you were from, whether it was metal, punk rock, or, new wave or indie, you were still, going to a record store. You were picking up an album of a style that you liked, and you looked at the liner notes and you saw, I like this band. What else is out there? So you looked at the liner notes and the bands that the band you just listened to on the turntable in the record store, who did they send thanks and greetings out to? And that's what you selected, maybe I'll check out this band, and it kind of snowballed from there, right?
Yeah. And I mean, the world has shrunk so much. I mean, it's like a kid can get into any little niche piece of music, any scene in the world, really. And, if they're excited about it, within 6 months, they can literally have listened to every seminal album, every band. And when I grew up, I mean, it took years. And me and my friend group, like, maybe one guy would like find like a jewel, they'd be traveling and on vacation and go to a record store, find these like special records, and then it would be passed like through the friend group. But, it's a blessing and a curse, because I think when you appreciate things when they're tough to find and it's rare, and that not everybody has a thing, it adds a certain that's why people collect stuff, right? So,
Right.
I mean, music doesn't have that anymore. It's like completely, I don't want to say it doesn't hold value, but it just, there's so much of it, and it's so accessible that, people don't appreciate how difficult it is to do it. If you own a painting that, somebody painted, and you can see the brush strokes, and you put it up on your wall, you look at that and you just know that, there was like 100 hours put into this, where a record may take 1,000 hours, start to finish, writing, recording. And when you just hit play, you pluck a song out, talk a bunch of shit. So this band fell off, and, it's a really,
and that was still
sort of strange,
Yeah, and that was still the fact when people were just putting out 7 inches or albums on vinyl. You had this thing that's like 12 inches, vinyl album in your hand, and you had maybe the cover artwork or maybe a sheet of lyrics. But you still, if you were not a musician or knew a little bit about it, you would not have any idea if this album took a year to record, or if it was recorded in a week, or how much work was put into it. Did they work overnight? Because sometimes bands worked overnight to get, because a day in the studio was fucking expensive, or still is expensive. So and I think that's still something that people underappreciate when they listen to music. And nowadays with Spotify and everything available at your fingertips, that is even more sad to think about that, right?
Yeah, I think the trade-off is like you go to a hardcore show and you see a band that by all rights and definition, like should not have a following in Las Vegas, but then just based on, these strange circumstances of who they're touring with or,
Right.
who talked about them in a podcast like this, all of a sudden I'll go see a band and, there'll be 40, 50 young kids that have the discography. And when I grew up, that wasn't the case. A band, it was a lot more regional.
Definitely.
So you would have a band come from Texas and nobody would have any idea what they sounded like. You know what I mean? It's
exactly.
in that way, I think you lose a little bit with it being so accessible, but I think the culture gains a lot more just because it's easy,
Yeah.
You can write a great song and it gets out. It's not like you need to press records and you need to have distribution. You can record it on Monday and by Friday, if it's good, it can be all over,
Yeah, a kid in Singapore can listen to the album and, forward it to their friends and they like it too. And it snowballs from there. So definitely that is a curse and a blessing at the same time. Since when have you been active or an active musician? When did you start out making music and taking it seriously is probably too much to say, but when was your realization? Oh, well, I really like to do this, and I'll keep doing it.
I think when I was younger, when I was in high school, some friends of mine, were playing in a punk band, and I think I just got around that I just got the bug of hanging out, going to shows, and then when you realize that all your friends are playing bands, it's not so much about being a musician. It's just, you're hanging out, going to a ton of shows. And then next thing you know, you're hanging out while people are practicing and, jumping in a van to go on tour. And inevitably you just kind of get swept up in it. So I think, I was in a hardcore band called Folsom when I was younger. And, we did a lot more stuff traveling tour wise, putting out some EPs and LPs and things. But like at that time, I never really took it. Towards the end, it was serious as in me writing everything and really trying to figure out how to compose music and do, play guitar and write things in a way that, I connected with. But that had so many different personalities and things involved with it, where the record we did, Hammer Lane, I think maybe Matt, because he had started playing with us, that plays guitar in Spirit World now.
Yeah.
Maybe he wrote a couple, like he had a few parts, maybe a couple riffs on that. But
okay.
I think I just, at some point, I never got into music, like playing anything but hardcore punk and metal. Like I still don't, like I can't play cover songs or barely tune a guitar. Like all of those things. So when you say musician, like I'm a professional musician.
Okay.
But I'm really not. I'm just a guy that likes to play.
So you never took lessons or anything like that? Just,
when I was finishing up a degree in college for Associates of Applied Science, I had an elective. And so I took a guitar 101 class.
Okay.
It was one semester and literally they did. I guess because I could play a few chords and do some things, it started with people that had never seen a guitar before. So we made it through half of that. And the only thing that you learned was he started showing a bit of a scale very slowly. Ding, 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 ding. And I don't know that I even remember that. I just remember being like, this is a complete waste of my time. That was it for my actual structured learning. Kind of being spaced out in a classroom full of fucking college kids, just like, waiting to go home.
Okay. Wow. That is, I mean, my mom always wanted me to play guitar, and I think for like a couple of months, I did her the favor and took guitar lessons, and it was to no avail. It was just, I'm not a musician.
Yeah.
I have no musical bone inside of me.
I
Anyway.
think guitar is very difficult. You have to love it. Like now I'm to the point, like I'm writing a bunch of stuff right now, and it's like I think about just the style and how difficult the stuff that I'm playing is. And to me, it's like, I've reached a level where these are all these little licks and things that I do where, I can just play them now. But I've played a shitload of guitar, and looking back, I'm like, I would have never thought I would get, my chops up to this level. But it's a thing that I find very, I don't know what the word is. It's like guitar has just been a mainstay of my, like, it's just like a meditative thing. I like to go on walks. I like to jump in my pool and lay out in the sun, and I like to play guitar, just like reading. Like all of those are kind of singular activities that I do, and I just get a lot out of it, And I'm thankful that I found something that I can apply. Because playing guitar, if I didn't have an outlet and wasn't playing in bands, I wouldn't have there's a certain like fear and maybe not fear, but when you're putting out records that are gonna be like in the big time, like our nowadays Spirit World's so big, like we get our stuff rubs elbows with all of my favorite bands. And then the songs that I write, we play on stages, literally with bands that shaped my musical taste, my favorite band going now. And so I feel like, I feel very blessed that something I love to do, I can take it very serious and know like I gotta really do something. Because when you put out a record like Pagan Rhythms and Death Western, where let's be real, it's riff based. The reason the band blew up is because of, what I play with my right hand. It's not that I'm like a shredder. It's just like the groove and the thing. And so to be able to try and take those records up a notch is put in thousands and thousands of hours of just, it's cool.
Yeah. It's definitely, it sounds like it is something that gives you a little bit of peace of mind. And it's more like a Zen kind of thing. I think the Japanese call something like that ikigai, which is like a sense of purpose in doing something. Is that what how you would describe it?
Yeah, I've heard that. That's a beautiful way of looking at things too, where you just find the thing that you want to do and you just do it and refine it and refine it and refine it. And I think that there's definitely some parallels to what I'm doing with Spirit World with, like, I know what I'm trying to do with it and improve these little things. And like, yeah, that's very similar,
Definitely. In the German version of the podcast, we like to go really deep with the individual musicians. And one of the questions that we frequently ask is, what is your first memory that is related to music? Do you know? Do you remember?
Yeah, I want to say probably being really little with my twin brother and like running around the house, like jumping on the couch and over the couch. Is like a combination of seeing my older brothers like skateboarding and us listening to like probably Chuck Berry.
Okay.
Like some of my like parents like old like rock and roll records like Maybelline or something, and it was probably on a cassette or an 8-track, and just like I just remember like rampaging around the house, just like feeling that energy. Like probably being like, I don't know, 3-4 years old, something pretty small,
Okay.
Kind of the same like energy you get when you go to a show and like all the punk kids start circle pitting, I think.
Exactly. You
I don't
get
think
antsy and just
the most aggressive thing, but and for whatever, we were probably hopped up on sugar and rock and roll and fucking. So I remember that, and then I remember around the same time we had found some stuff of my mom's, and it was some old records of hers
Mm-hmm.
when she was a kid, and she had it was like a toy, not a toy, but like a novelty little turntable that was set up to play 45s. And so
Okay.
she had a whole slew of cool like country music and Elvis 45s. And we had one at Jailhouse Rocks that I'm pretty sure that was the first time in my life where I put something on a little turntable and listened to it
Wow.
probably 50 fucking times back to back to back, like all day, you
Mm-hmm.
know? And then the next time somebody in my family, like maybe they were all in school or whatever, but I remember like it came on and like I just knew the entire song, like front to back, like just that memorization of like loving something and like being like, what is this?
Yeah.
And I remember other people in my family were like, God damn, like, well, like whatever, just because some little guy is just like,
Yeah.
memorize this school.
Yeah, definitely. Was your family, your parents, grandparents, uncles, aunts, was it a musical family, or was it more like as you just mentioned, your mom had a couple of 7 inches, but is there something? Is there a person in your life that, um, when you think of them, you're like, this is also an influence musically on me. My taste, my
Yeah,
the
we had nobody played music when I was growing up. I think I have 5 brothers, so there's 6 boys, and
Whoa.
me and my twin brother are way younger than everybody else. Um, so I think my dad was 42 when he had us, and
Mhm.
so like my grandparents and everybody were all very like they were elderly, um, and all passed away by the time I was like 5 because they were.
Okay.
I
Mhm.
think my mom was like the youngest kid,
Mhm.
and on my dad's side, like my grandparents were dead before I was ever born, but nobody really played music in the house. A couple of my older brothers were like in band, but I don't really have a memory of like going to see them play in the school band or anything. But there were just always records playing,
Mhm.
so a lot of the stuff was initially rockabilly and like old country music because that's what my parents loved.
Mhm.
So like they'd be listening to like Merle Haggard and
Oh, nice.
George Jones and like all that kind of like country that they grew up on. And then my older brothers, because they were when I was little, by the time I was like 5, like they were in their early 20s because they're like 15 years older than me. That's where they were listening to like really aggressive stuff, like some of the some of the stuff was like just popular, like Motley Crue and Guns N' Roses and stuff. But then my the second oldest, my brother Curtis, he
Mhm.
got like he was the one that kind of found punk and the really aggressive stuff. And so I think he would have been going to UNLV and hanging out with like a bunch of skater kids and punk kids and going to see, bands like Bad Religion and fucking Pantera and Danzig and shit. And so
Right,
that's
right, right.
so in the house and in the car. So like anytime Nick, who plays in Spirit World with me, like he got really into metal. So like he was the one listening to, Slayer and White Zombie and going to all those shows. And
Nice.
like he found Biohazard and Life Agony and stuff that was like hardcore adjacent
Uh-huh.
at time that then as I got a little older and started going to shows and like I just grew up on stuff like Misfits and Social Distortion. Like there were certain bands that everybody in my family liked,
Mhm.
because some of the
Mhm.
stuff like the punk stuff and the metal stuff was too much. My parents hated it. And like some of my other brothers were like, fuck this shit. But there were certain things that were so good. Like
Mhm.
I remember when like Social Distortion self-titled came out, like my
Mm.
parents loved that band. All my brothers. So stuff like that. It was like Johnny Cash at when I was like getting to be a teenager, he had a really big revival of uh when he hooked up with Rick Rubin and put
Right.
out
The American recordings.
yeah, and so he consistently put those out like probably from when, I was like between 10 and 15 somewhere.
Mhm.
So he was putting those out and like his records were played nonstop in our house before his old stuff. And then that really like those records really took off with my older brothers too, who loved it. So there wasn't really anybody playing music until my brother Curtis he's a fucking character, man. Like
Okay.
he really shaped like not intentionally, he was just doing his thing, but just seeing somebody that when he got out of school, like he just hopped trains across the country, got through
Wow.
in Memphis. And so he lived kind of he's a bit of a punk and a very politicized,
How much older is he than you?
he's got to be probably 10, 12 years,
Okay.
I'd say when I was, because I remember when I was in ninth grade, he had ended up in Austin, Texas, and he was, I don't know what he was doing for work, but he was hanging out with a bunch of, it was just like a bunch of activists, down there by the Texas University campus. And so, like, I went there with no expectations whatsoever, just going to hang out. And me and my twin brother Bees and Curtis, we were like sleeping in the backyard of this kind of, like not a squat. People lived there and paid rent, but like going to house parties, people are like screen printing T-shirts because there's a protest against them enacting a bicycle helmet law and like
more like
going
a commune or something like that.
Yeah, and it was just a community of like really political, kind of activism that I had never seen anything like that. But then there was also like a lot of those dudes were like kind of, crusty punks and hippies and shit. But Curtis, because he just really was into like that. Like he's the one that really, really got into like hopping trains and, Woody Guthrie and like he worked for a long time doing like union organizing stuff. And so stuff like Utah Phillips and Woody Guthrie and just kind of train songs and like workers' rights songs and just those things like all of the just union standards. Like
labor movement, troubadours, basically.
Wobbly stuff. And so there's just a ton of great stuff that it fit into what I grew up to listening anyways, because it's all like folk music. But then it's just a lot more it really connected with me because you could see people actively trying to make change. And then I'm listening to all this punk rock stuff that's like think for yourself, be a difference, smash the state. And then I wasn't hanging out with people that were, throwing shit through Starbucks windows. I was hanging out, and what I was seeing is people like more of the food not bombs and like the more peaceful protesting, but like critical mass bike rides where you have 200 people blocking up every lane of the traffic right down on like forget what it is, like 6th Street or whatever that main drag is in Austin. And so that made a pretty big impact on me. And he's always learned like cover songs. And so he was playing a ton of, he could like play Townes Van Zandt songs and play a ton of Bob Dylan and, Woody Guthrie songs. And so seeing somebody that you look up to that's, can play guitar and sing shit. And then when you're hanging out with all these other like people that are later on, like he was living in Montana. And I remember a bunch of like the kind of hippie, we all went and saw Utah Phillips, who's a pretty famous labor movement, like poet that I think my mom came to. That was when I was in high school too. But like then you're just in a room with like all these people that, are trying to organize unions and really trying to put workers' rights to the forefront of how they live their life. And it's pretty cool how, these songs that were written by some of these wobblies that, had been persecuted, thrown in jail, sometimes murdered, and songs they wrote, right after the Great Depression. And they were organizing, probably 50, 60 years before, like I was going to some of these shows, and then you're hearing songs they wrote that have become like classics, and you've got a room of, 400 people singing them, and they still ring true. It's like those songs still today. It's the same thing, work your whole life and, waiting for the pie in the sky. And something about that always like made a big impression on me, that you can play 3 chords, 4 chords, and it could be a punk band that's electrified and have these like anthems that are, trying to change the world. Or you could also go stand with a harmonica and a acoustic guitar and do the same thing. And so I think all of those experiences, while I didn't grow up in a musical household, like I quickly found that music is just a very, very powerful thing. And a lot of people dedicate their whole life to the craft of songwriting. And that's another thing I found by, like, Curtis just stumbled upon all these great singer-songwriters. And as I delved into like those catalogs, you kind of realize when people, like, there's pop music, sure, but there's a whole glut of American songwriters that, live their whole life just mining, writing great song after great song. And there is not one commercial like thing about it for a lot of these guys. It's just, they may never get, at least in my eyes, when I would see some of these folks play, they were a little older, like 60s, 50, 60, 70 years old by the time I was 20. And I'm seeing them at the biggest, like a theater with, a 300 cap room. And these folks, like, it's just about the song. So I think all of that really, really informed like what I do now,
Yeah. One of the songs on the split with the Black Coffee that I'm holding up right here is Zevon Forever, or Warren Zevon is one of the guys that you're probably thinking of when you talked about people from that era, because I've never heard of Warren Zevon before. Send Guns, Money, and Lawyers is one of the greatest T-shirt prints I can ever imagine. How and he was he one of the guys that you're thinking of right now?
No, I got into him later. He was in the LA scene, like coming out of that like Laurel Canyon, like folky scene at the tail end of that. But like,
okay.
Really, I'm thinking about like the stuff like Townes Van Zandt, Woody Guthrie, Bob Dylan, Joan Baez, trying to think, like Guy Clark. A lot of the Texas stuff really, really impressed me. Like Ray Wiley Hubbard. There's a ton of stuff, but
definitely
just these guys that, like, not that Bob Dylan wasn't the biggest songwriter in the world at one point, but kind of the folks in Texas that really, like, most popular music listeners never heard any of that stuff. And like, to me, when I realized that they're just their whole life is dedicated to songwriting, I thought that was something about that. I've never lost sight of that it doesn't have to be about a scene, or you can transcend a movement, a scene, generations, all of that. But the craft of just writing songs can be very personal and very, like, document your entire life, all the important events that happen, and then also speak to universally to people that, maybe 30 years younger than you. That shit's pretty powerful.
Definitely. Let's get back to Spurtwald, or Folsom Spurtwald, and the Vegas scene. Did you grow up in Vegas, or were you born in Vegas? What's the story there?
Yeah, I was born and raised here, and then probably when I was going into, like, I finished up junior high and high school in Idaho. I had
Okay.
moved up there, and like it was cool too because we were kind of being little shit asses down here, like my friends were already like smoking weed and just, I mean, not bad kids, but kids without a lot of guidance and not a lot of
Mhm.
you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
looking back, I can totally see like we were all headed for, you know, trouble, you know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely.
We
Definitely.
went to Idaho and um it was cool, did a lot of rodeoing,
Mhm.
played a lot of,
Rodeoing.
yeah, like my family grew up like on my mom's side,
Okay.
like I'm named after my grandfather Stuart Henry.
Mhm.
Uh, he would have been like a step grandfather after my blood grandfather.
Okay.
Uh, he was not to get too dark, but he was shot and killed, and then like my step grandfather ended up marrying my grandmother, and they all lived on a ranch. And so my
Mhm.
mom grew up like, she rodeoed in Vegas, and then like I had cousins who were professional rodeo riders and pretty
Wow.
like doing fantastic. And so that was just a thing that we also did a lot. So when I moved to Idaho, there was the opportunity where we could go ride stuff. And
Mhm.
so
Wow.
then we just like my brother Chris was really into rodeo and rodeoed professionally too. So we me and my twin brother just spent summertime in the spring, just driving around, going to rodeos, and we only did rough stock, but
You got to explain a little bit because most of the people probably listening are from Germany, and when we think rodeo, we of course think of cowboys trying to stay on a wild Mustang for longer than 8 seconds, or a bull, or something like that. But it's so much more than that, right? It's a slew of different activities, for lack of a better word.
yeah, I mean the like at a typical rodeo event, you have like probably 10 different events. You
Hmm.
have barrel racing where you race a horse around three barrels that are shaped in a triangle. You kind of do a loop around them. And then
Hmm.
you've got for little kids, like what we were doing, junior rodeo into high school rodeo, like the little guys will go out there and ride sheep because they're
Hmm.
small, so you could have little kids. So you got
Right.
little kids riding sheep, you got girls barrel racing, then you got people team roping where two horses, you let a calf out, run out, or a steer, and then head it, heel it. And then you got people bulldogging where bigger guys. So you have like a steer heading out and then they jump off the horse, grab them by the horns, and then you got to
Oh
flip them on the
wow.
back, whoever can do
Jesus
it the
Christ.
quickest.
Okay.
So
Wow.
all of those things that you have to have a horse to do, we were pretty
Hmm.
poor. So like we didn't have like a place with, where we had horses and stuff to ride. But what we could do is, like you mentioned, all the rough stock stuff. So I rode a lot of bareback where you just have a rigging with one hand, put your hand in it, hold on. You got to mark the horse out when it comes out of the chute. Your
Hmm.
spurs have to be in the
Hmm.
shoulders when it first touches. And then you
Hmm.
got to last 8 seconds. And
Yeah.
then rode a lot of steers and yearling bulls. And
Wow.
didn't do saddle bronc because again, like that's another thing. A saddle is very expensive,
Okay. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
mainly did those two events. Like a lot of fun. I mean, it's scary.
Definitely.
You get
It's scary and sounds dangerous. Did you ever get hurt?
oh yeah, broke my nose. My twin brother got stomped on the chest and fucking had a horseshoe on his chest. This was before people, wore the like they wear vests and shit now that have
Harnesses. Yeah.
yeah, that kind of help with that. But this was still where you're just wearing a pearl snap fucking Western shirt or a
Jesus.
flannel. But yeah,
Jesus
he had like a
Christ.
horseshoe for fucking probably like 3-4 months because it like hit and
Jesus.
scraped. And so luckily the dirt and shit, and it was like, but yeah, I mean, anybody you ride rodeo, you get fucking smashed. Like there's only, even if you ride and cover 8 seconds, just getting off and like kind of flipping off and landing funny, you're sore and, you know, those are big animals,
Definitely. It's fucking. I get anxious at thinking about it. When did you get back to Vegas then? How long were you away from Vegas, and when and why did you decide to go back to Vegas?
Right after high school. So I finished junior high and high school up in Idaho, and then I went and worked in Washington State, like around Seattle and stuff, probably all summer. And then my partner Jen she was a year younger than me, so she had one more year of high school, and then when she was out of school, I can't think, but probably like I was traveling around a lot, and then I think I went back to Idaho for a minute, and then by the time she was out of school, we ended up back down here. And then so yeah, I've spent most of my life living in Vegas, and then had a short stint in Idaho. But those are the only two places I've ever lived.
Okay. All right. I first got a hold of a demo, lack of a better. Well, our friend Gremlin, sent me a link, or maybe he sent me MP3s. I'm not sure. It was back in 2016. I was working in Vegas. Sometime in the spring of 2016, I got a hold of 6 songs that made it onto the demo, that the first demo, and 2 songs made it on the Black Coffee Spilled Blood Split single. And I gotta tell you, that was whenever I got in my car at night, drive around Vegas, go drive to shows, or just cruising down the boulevard, I put on those 6 songs. That's my Las Vegas 2016 soundtrack. That's my diary songs, basically. I love that those 6 songs meant so much to me, and it just felt and whenever I listen to Menthols and Adderall, or Mike Chip Teeth, it just gives me flashbacks.
Yeah. Me too, man. Love that stuff. And because of that demo, like that was the thing that I hadn't put anything out, since Folsom broke up, and then the process of doing that just really reignited the idea that I want to make records, and I want to make art, and I want to do it in a way where it's not, I don't want to say squandered, because you get what you put into things, and I didn't have a plan with that demo other than just putting it out. And I just think that that was a turning point where I was like, okay, I'm going to make records, but they're going to count, because like that demo, if I would have shopped that around and put that out and like toured off of it, there would be thousands and thousands of people that had the same experience with those songs that you and I did. And I mean, there's hundreds of people I think I made 80 of those demos and handed them out, It wasn't like there's very many, and we only played a couple shows, but it just made me realize that if I'm going to make stuff that I love, that I really, really stand behind, like I owe it to the process and to the songs to get them out and do the things that make them have the most, get them out with the world. There's no need to, be so precious about it or lazy. Like to me, it's serious. Like I want, like those songs are some of my favorite songs I've written, and I can't wait to start playing them live, and getting out of this concept world I've been mining the last few years and get back to some stuff like that,
Exactly. I was at the first 2 Spilled World shows ever, back in October of 2017, and a year later, I think December of 2018, you were still doing basically split sets of old Folsom songs and the new Spilled World songs. In 2018, my friend Graham, I don't even know if I should mention this, but he sent me a link to like a Dropbox with 5 songs that had scratch vocals on them. Grave. Let me check it out. I got it on myself because I love the second. I call it the second demo, but it's not the second demo that you put out because the songs never made it. It's Cold Hard Gnarly Shaded Blue. Good Life, Great Basin Starlight, Ramblin' Hearts, and Sleepin' Alone. Couple of those songs you did play on the second show in 2018, as I recall. And I think one of the songs, and I think it's Great Basin Starlight, was kind of rehashed in the first the song of Bird of Death. No, what's
Yeah, we
the
recorded
Bird Song of Death, right?
Yeah, the demo stuff we recorded in one session, and I was gonna do the single-sided LP,
Okay.
and I should have instead of doing a demo, but then I just wanted to put it out, and Punk Rock Bowling was coming up, and so like those 7 songs were supposed to be a single-sided 12-inch
Okay.
demo, and so the split, because I put out the 4-song demo, then I can't remember how many songs, but that first recording session, then the second one I did, we never got it to the point where we were ready to put it out, and then things moved on, and just kind of missed the window if you don't put stuff out. And so then some of that stuff, I was like, well, if I'm never putting this shit out, it's already been so many years. I at least ought to, use some of these riffs and repurpose some of this stuff that
Definitely.
I really like. So yeah, that was another thing too, because I was working on that in the in-between time of kind of figuring out what I was going to do, getting sober. And then because that didn't come out, that really, for multiple reasons, like we went back in and tried with Sam Pura, who has recorded our stuff. And we took another crack at the vocals, and everything was tuned to E standard. And so he really tried to take a crack at getting me to sing in key, but it was too high, and I really just didn't like it, didn't connect with it afterwards, and felt like missed the mark. And so through all of that, I kind of came like full circle to, if I'm going to do this, it has to be in a serious way where everything I do sees the light of day. And I like making records and I like making songs, but I do not like not putting them out in a way that you kind of have to go all in if you're going to do something.
Yeah.
Which is why
half-assed is bullshit. You got to do it wholeheartedly.
Yeah. And if you do it half-assed, you end up with, things not getting out there. But if you go all in, I mean, I'm a test.
You fall hard, but at least you gave it your all.
Yeah. To me, like the stuff and where Spirit World's at now is because of that, like I sat down with an idea, like really took those lessons, and between Folsom and those first couple Spirit World things that I felt like was spinning my wheels. Now, like anytime I do anything, we do it at a really high level and like do a ton of really fucking interesting, cool shit with it,
And then came Pagan Rhythms, which was a paradigm shift for me, at least, because I was I love all the Spirit World songs. I love all the stuff that you put out, but I was taken aback a little bit. I was like, okay, this is absolutely different. I was not expecting that. What brought about that change to go into the more, for lack of a better term, more metal kind of direction?
I think it's simple for me because when I sat down and after we played that show with Citizen,
the second one, yeah.
Yeah, I think when we played that show, we had like probably like a 20-minute set or something. We probably played 5 or 6 like of our original songs. And then right after that, that's when I was working on that other batch of songs. And maybe we had recorded them then, I don't recall. But I decided to get sober, and I decided to like do a band. And then I was playing a lot of guitar, writing tons of stuff, really inspired. And I just love metal, and I love playing really heavy, groovy stuff. And so I just was like, well, I can do whatever I want. And right now, like, I think I want to make some like really heavy, Slayer, Integrity inspired, shit like that. So I just wrote that record and I kind of put together the whole thing of, I also want to write some like horror Western fiction stories because I've been
Exactly.
putting scenes with everything. Yeah. So I just decided to do all that. And then because of having a little bit of annoyance with how the demo stuff came out, I was just like, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to like do all the artwork, do it all, put it out in a way that it has a chance to reach people.
Mhm.
And then as soon as I put it out, it just fucking blew the fuck up,
It
which
did.
is cool. It's like I love that record and I love those short stories, and everything that has happened since is because of that time period that I sat in my room and just made that selfishly. Like if it would have only sold 200 copies and nobody would have really cared, like so be it. Like I love that record, and I love that time period. I think back very fondly of putting all that together,
Definitely. I was so I was so stoked to get the album. As I mentioned before, I got like 5 different vinyl versions, which is stupid, but I'm a fucking collector, so would sue me. But then I realized, or you told me that you wrote a novel. I think I read this in one go, a couple of hours. Godlessness is it still available as a hardback or as a soft cover? What's going on there?
It got picked up and reprinted at one point, and
Okay.
there's a really nice edition out that I don't have anymore. There may be some copies. I'm not sure. It might be out of print. I don't know.
Yeah, I checked I was on the merch page of Spilled Ward. I didn't check whether it was sold out or not. But there's 2 things I wanted to say about this book, or 3 things. There is you wrote something for me in there. Thank you so much, my dude. Enjoy. See you after the plague, because it was right in COVID.
True.
And then I read the book, and there's a couple of scenes in there that reminded me of Cannibal Corpse cover songs, because it's not for the faint of heart. Let's put it that way.
Sure.
And it also reminded me of, and I think we're both kind of nerds in the same direction, of a Vertigo Comics series that came out a couple of decades ago, Loveless.
Yeah.
Do you remember that one? Was that in any way, something that you put into, was part of the creation process for Godlessness?
I think all of that stuff, like, from Preacher to Hellboy, Sin City, Tarantino movies. I just love film and graphic novels and death metal and shit. So really, like, all of that stuff is distilled down somewhere in what I do, outside of Slayer and certain musical things that I definitely put like a direct nod to, because I find it, not that I really care, but I do find it pretty interesting that you can have all of these bands that run around playing stoner metal and doom metal and just rehashing Black Sabbath. But then the best band to ever do it, the almighty Slayer, like, I feel like there should be 100 bands across the world at all times fucking doing Slayer. So I proudly fucking nod to Slayer and do it. Same thing with Integrity. Like, if you want to talk to, there's certain bands that if you want to talk to me about like who I consider the Mount Rushmore of like metallic hardcore and stuff, it's like Integrity and Ringworm, All Out War, Marauder, like those bands, Hunter Demons, Hatebreed, like those bands I really I stand for, So like the comic book stuff really informed a lot of what I do with the fiction writing, because I like fast-paced, over the top, really visually exciting storytelling. Same thing in film, like I really love a gripping,
And you managed that perfectly in Godlessness. I strongly recommend this to anyone who loves reading, loves captivating stuff, gory stuff. Is there going to be a second part? Have you written anything? What's going on there?
Yeah. So another thing, because I'm at the point where anything that I do, like even that, like I put that out DIY and it was going to be just a stapled zine, but then it's a little too big. So I just did it in like a paperback edition, but then it immediately gets picked up and like actually released. And so the stuff I'm working on the fiction side, I've got a graphic novel I've been working on that
nice
picked up that, and I really want to, I think that's probably what'll come out next. But there is a novel that continues that story right where it left off. But I think the graphic novel that'll actually be in the timeline, it's further down the road.
Okay.
The novel is.
Okay.
And so it'll probably, I think that's getting legs and will probably end up seeing the light of day before the novel.
Okay, awesome.
But yeah, I've been working on the fiction side of this too. Like I just do all the shit I like. There's no rules, man. Make a band.
Yeah,
if you
definitely.
Want fucking like have a big concept thing to allow you to.
Spirit World for me is like you get a package deal. Spirit World is not just a band. A Spirit World is a world. I mean, you have videos that are, telling a story, that are, building a story up. It's a continuing stuff. You can basically watch all the videos and basically make a movie out of it. You have probably the best stage outfits I've ever seen on a band that are so fucking awesome, so fitting. I've seen your first shows. I've seen you guys in Germany in October of 22 when you were on tour with Agnostic Front, Charger, and the fourth band escapes me right now. Last Hope, exactly, from Sofia. That was an awesome. I saw you guys in Berlin. I saw you guys in Cologne. That was awesome. I saw you guys in October 23. You've always you picked up your outfits, your outfit game, because like with every new album, you basically refined it and made it so much better than the previous outfits. Not that I'm a outfit kind of person, but I just think that is one of the trademarks of Spirit World, is that when you're on stage, that stage is Spirit World. There's from the Iron Cactuses that you had on the first or second show back in Vegas in 2018 to stage outfits, etc. And it's just I'm so excited for any new stuff. So the third album just came out at the end of March. It's the first time where you actually, as the for the people that only knew you after Pagan Rhythms came out and haven't had a chance to listen to the demos and the singles and all the split singles before that. That was the first time for those, let's call them new listeners, to see or hear the other side, the side that is, as you, I think, on the Bandcamp page, the demo is registered as something cowboy space punk or something like that. How was the reception of your Slayer-esque riffing songs and the, let's call it, cowboy space punk songs?
Good. I mean, there was like people were like on this side of the table, there's a lot of discussion about, well, there wasn't, just put it this way, when you're in a metal band that is blowing up and you can go tour in the big pro metal circuit, there's not really an appetite for when you tell people you want to like do shit that they don't really understand, that they think is gonna like ruin what you're doing. And so I think some people, that metalheads are notoriously closed-minded, just like hardcore kids. It's all the same. And when you're very excited about metal, sometimes you have you cannot stand for a band to do anything. And unfortunately for us, we're in the position that when I write metal songs, there's not a whole lot of like jerking off going on. It's really heavy, like we may do some solos and stuff, but it's really driving, really aggressive. And so there's people that really connect with that they probably haven't reached they're not into exploring a band doing any sort of things that aren't really heavy. And so I think we got really lucky that a lot of people really dug songs like Prayer Lips and Annihilism or Birdsong of Death, and can see that if you listen to the record in a whole, like it really makes it a different experience than if it was just 10 metal songs. And it really helps, the kind of bring that world to life a little more, with having some moody stuff. But we've got both reactions. Like I've had people that, are just like, well, you just put 4 skips on your record. Death Western was a fucking classic, which Death Western did have some little like things that are not metal in it.
Yeah.
I think because I kept them brief and I wanted to make a really heavy record that, for the most part was just a bunch of ass beaters. So I think people hold that record is probably the best thing we've ever done. And then there's people that think Eldorado took that to its natural next step and knocked it out of the park. But Eldorado is a lot more divisive, where there's a group of people that are like, half of that record fucking sucks. What are you doing? And so I think to me, it's like, I get it. Like I'm a metalhead and I get when bands do stuff that like you may love one record and they may have a 10 record catalog. And like, there's a lot of bands where I like 2 records out of their catalog. I should say love 2 records. And then I can appreciate what they do, but maybe the other ones never hit for me again.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I
can't please everybody. It is like
and I'm not here to. I'm here to like do what I do. And I know part of that is going to be pretty it's going to be divisive. But also my band is so weird and such a one of one thing that the people that fuck with it and like it, like they're here for it. And so the people that are online talking shit, are they the ones that go to the shows anyways? Like, you know what I mean? Like, get fucked, guys. Start your own. So, like, the pretentious guy that knows everything about it, like, start a band. You know what I mean? Do your own.
Exactly. He's never going to come to a show
where you know everything and you're a fucking authority on all things riff. Then it's time to play your own guitar. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Get off,
or do a fucking podcast.
Do something like get off of the sidelines and go share whatever it is that you're passionate about,
Exactly.
And to me, like I'm in a beautiful spot where people allow us a space, and I'm mainly because I've set it up that way, but I'm going to do whatever I want. And that's it. You know what I mean? It's
definitely
like, I care more about Spirit World and what we produce than anybody. So it's not like it's not like I'm going to be disrespecting what I consider to be my legacy of songwriting. So like, it's going to be a journey for sure,
Definitely.
And it's probably going to get weirder. So there you go.
Again?
It's probably going to get a little weirder and a little more,
I'm all for it. You've had some great tours. I mentioned the tour with Agnostic Front and Charger and Last Hope through Europe. You were on tour with Crowbar. You were on tour with Terror and Nails. And you were going on tour in November. That's probably the first tour that's or the last tour that's actually mentioned on the Spillboard pages, Instagram, etc. is with Alien Weaponry and Avatar. So how did that? I mean, those are 2. I was not aware of Avatar. I've never heard of them before. Alien Weaponry, I did hear. They're, as far as I remember, a New Zealand band, right? And they're all made of native New Zealand Maori people, right?
Yeah, they're fucking cool, man.
Definitely. How did that come to be?
I don't actually know. I just because we get offers for stuff now, and
Okay.
it's a thing where like our booking agent is really, I don't know what the right word is, but really looking to find folks that will fuck with Spirit World. And like we did some tours with like Obituary, Sepultura,
Right.
Creator,
Exactly.
and like we know that in those rooms, like we can crush that crowd, and like a chunk of that audience we know really loves the kind of metal that we play and is getting behind it. But then there's also a crowd that like we don't see very often except for like festivals. Like we did some shows on a festival cruise in like early this year, and it was, like the headlining bands are more mainstream stuff. And so I was curious on how we would do with a crowd that
Right.
wasn't, because it's a pretty hip crowd that goes to see Obituary, Nails, Terror, Spirit World. Like that's a crowd of people that clearly dig underground music, dig things like
Yeah.
ultra heavy
Yeah.
stuff like
Yeah.
Nails.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so, like, we did these festival shows, and like it went great. And when we play open air festivals,
Hmm.
we always do really good. And I'm pumped for this Avatar tour because that's a fan base that, for us, one of the hurdles that we face is you have 30 minutes to kind of distill what you do.
Hmm.
And we're a very, on one hand, very artsy theatrical band when you start digging into everything that I do and create. And so
Hmm.
when we come out and play in like rhinestone suits and we have these big giant banners of artwork that, like, there's a visual thing to this, that Avatar is also very theatrical. And so like their crowd is our battle we have with the Obituary fan that only likes Florida death metal and, certain eras of stuff. And they like their bands, like a hardcore band come out wearing shorts and a t-shirt, and there's like no theatrical.
Yeah.
It's all just the meat and the bone and the riff. And
Hmm.
so when we come out, there's a certain hesitancy where I can tell people are like, fuck this fucking bunch of cowboy, like, whatever, like this is a
Yeah.
fucking dick, fuck this band. And then as we like rip through our set, a big chunk of that energy, you just see it flip on people where they like go from wanting to hate us to like, you can see them hitting their buddy being like, God damn, another riff. This fucking band is sick. This band is cooking, boy. And so like, I'm excited to go play to a crowd that, one,
Uh-huh.
Avatar has some heavier parts, but Alien Weaponry too. Like they both have like groovy, heavy parts, but their crowd is completely different group than like the crowds we've been playing to. So I'm super pumped that our booking agent like hooked this up where we can go play in front of a crowd that, I mean, their rail riders are going to have clown makeup and shit. They're not even going to think we're weird. It'll be nice for me to not be the weird,
Yeah.
theatrical,
Yeah.
artsy.
Exactly.
Usually we're the most like artsy, theatrical band in the room. And it'll be cool to be in a room full of, I
Even
like,
more artsy people. Yeah.
yeah, I like all the freaks and shit. Like I always hung out with the fucking weirdos and the goths and the punks. Like those are my tribe. And so
Hmm.
it'll be cool to go play some music for these guys and gals and,
Definitely.
meet some new folks.
Definitely. Is there anything in the works coming back to Europe again?
Yes and no. There's nothing definitive, but we're
Yeah.
thinking the timeline will be probably do this tour, do like some Spirit World headlining shows in the spring of next year, and then
Mhm.
go do a festival run in Europe.
Mhm.
And I didn't mean to have such a gap going to Europe, but it's one of those things as a band when we all work full time. And so
Right.
we're trying to balance this fucking growing monster. And, like this year, doing two big US tours and releasing a record. And I guess we did a festival run, but it's like, we're going to play like 70 shows this year. And with the radius clauses, you
Mhm.
can't play the same market for like 60 days before or like 45 days after. So really, like, if you tour in the spring and fall, it kind of blocks up your year, you know? And
Definitely.
because it worked out to do this big obituary 35 years of cause of death tour that went May to June, then all of us needed to get home and go back to work. So it wasn't feasible to like get home at the beginning of June and then go out to festivals in June and July. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so we Europeans got the short end of the stick. Thank you.
Yeah, and it's a thing that like we went over there like 3 times before Death Western came out. Like we hit it hard when no one knew who we were. So
Yeah.
I'll be really excited to get back over because I feel like the band has grown and done so much cool shit, and we just have not gone to Europe. So it'll be cool to get back over there, you know?
Definitely. I really look forward to
time
that.
fucking flies too. Like I'm working on a new record right now, and
okay,
like
that was going to be my next question. So I know that you're always busy. I know that the third album was already basically written when I was in Vegas for the last time was October 23. So it was like a year and a half ago. So how far are you? What's going on with the fourth release? Anything you can tell me about it?
Yeah, I mean, we got to figure out how, like, all the logistics on the business side, because our initial deal with Century Media was for 3 records, which are done. And so all of those discussions and planning have to get figured out. So I got to sort out, you know, what we're doing with Century Media, because I know they want to re-sign the band, but we're at the point now where there's a lot of considerations to make, you know? And one of them is the turnaround time for putting out records is, to me, I know some bands need a couple years, 2-3 years to write a record, but I guess I'm a throwback to the older school where, to me, I'd be happy if I could put out a record, every year, every 18 months. And so I kind of want to tee up. I want to have a record in the can, and I want to be recording in the first quarter of next year. And then depending on how we put it out, if, we're working with other folks, you have to deal with their schedule, but
yeah, exactly.
we're not, if there's something else, but I just want to make records and get them out,
Okay. We're really looking
and the
forward to
stuff
that.
I'm doing right now is really, really, really fucking good. So I'm like, I got half of a record done, and I'm just like kind of fleshing out because that's the tough part, is you got to make it, you got to make it a whole piece,
Yeah. I wouldn't go so far as to call your albums concept albums. Story wise, they kind of are, because they're about this theme. The hell, western, death metal kind of, that's the general vibe of it. I'm really looking forward to new stuff. Is it you're trying to do a mixture again? Is it more metally? Is it more? I'm just trying to get a little sense of what to expect. I don't want to be too nosy, but
no, I'm not precious with this stuff. Like to me, like Hell Dorado, I thought that a trilogy of those records would be cool, but I really need a fourth one to really take that idea where I can get it to its like kind of high mark, So I think it'll be similar with a mix of things, but just kind of all the things that I found that worked well on the last 3 full lengths, I think I'm going to get combined into one. Like, I just feel like there's another level I can bring this stuff to with the stuff so it'll be like a mix of things, and probably more stuff like Abilene Grime, where it kind of shifts.
Love that song. Love that song. That's probably one of my favorite songs on the album.
Yeah, that's really hard to do, to combine different styles of music.
Jesus, yeah.
And so I've just kind of, so I think it'll be similar to that. You know what I mean? Yeah, and it's fun. Like, that's the other reason I do this, is like, I think that stuff is fun. And I like the idea of having really kind of cool rootsy music moments and then really heavy fucking jamming aggressive stuff too, you know?
Definitely. Have you had any lineup changes? No, there's still your brother on bass. There's Matt. There's is Cricket still playing with you, or is he with Wrist Meets Razor?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of by committee. It's been tough because it's a solo project on one hand, but then the live iteration of it. Luckily, Preston has been playing drums since Pagan Rhythms came out, and he's amazing. And then my brother Nick is playing bass, and Matt is playing rhythm guitar. And then, you know, we've had Randy, who is
Randy Ramone. I remember.
Yeah, and I guess it's out now into the world that he's playing in Ghost, so I can bring it up. And so that was right before we left to do a Sepultura tour. You know, he got that gig, which is fucking awesome. So
one of the biggest bands in heavy music right now. Just crazy.
Hey, we love Randy.
Crazy.
That's my fucking guy. So it's like he gets to go from playing, you know, shows with Spirit World to, you know, playing arenas nonstop. So because of that, we're on the same touring cycle as Ghost. We keep we put out our album, they put out theirs, and our tours have overlapped. So since he got that gig, we've had some friends filling in for lead guitar. So that's one of the things that I'm kind of coming to realize too is the band's getting to the point where I don't want to have turnover and I need to get it figured out. And I think part of that, I started this band to play guitar. And I think maybe the logical step would be to play rhythm guitar and sing, or at least play bass and then kind of shift things. Maybe have Nick and Matt play guitar. And we don't do a lot of solos and stuff, but it's just been by committee. And I've been fortunate to have people like Justin Fornoff that plays in Wrist Meet Razor jump in and do, like, he's played bass in Spirit World and, you know, done samples and background vocals. And like, that's been a piece of what we do is just having, you know, next man up, like friends jumping in and touring with us. Like Drew from Charger did the last 3 or 4 tours with us, and since awesome. Randy left. And so he's got 3 businesses going right now, 3 restaurants. And so I don't think he's going to be able to.
That's tough. Yeah. That's tough to tour on that.
It just doesn't it doesn't fit into his schedule as hard as we're probably going to end up touring over the next couple of years. So I don't know. It's tough too, because we, you know, it's every time you add somebody into the van, for us, it's not about even though we make money and shit, it's more about hanging out than it is adding. You know what I mean? So we're kind of talking through that too. Like, I'm not sure what it'll look at, but there'll probably be maybe some lineup changes, or maybe not lineup changes, but presentation changes. Because some of the songs I want to play, like Menthols and Adderall and Mike Chip Teeth and shit, like the stuff off the demo, like I need to play acoustic guitar and sing. If I'm going to do that, you really only need a 4-piece, because Matt played all those leads, and then, you know, we could have Nick play bass. And so I was trying to think of, like, maybe on this record, on the metal stuff, I'll go back to maybe that'll be the core group. And then if we add another guitar player at some point, sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's one of the tough things with a band is a band like this, that you put the records first, and then the live thing is a different iteration of it, you know?
Yeah, different animal. Definitely.
And I don't expect the people that, like, I'm very thankful that I get to do this with my friends, but I also don't expect at any time if any of them are like have other opportunities or businesses or other projects and things. It's like, I totally get it, you know? Like, my brother's got kids. Matt just had a baby. If either one of them are unable to do this, like, it's tough to be gone for 6 weeks, you know?
Definitely. So family always comes first. And I think that,
and we're all old enough to know, like, band shit is cool, but it's not the be all end all of your life. You got to have a balance of things that fill you up, you know?
Exactly. Definitely. One last topic. Have you ever talked about a Folsom reunion in the last couple of years?
Not really. I mean, we never did like a last show, but over the last, outside of the first Spirit World show when we played a couple of Folsom songs,
Yeah.
every time Folsom has played over the last probably 10 years now has
Mhm.
been somebody hitting us up for a benefit show of some kind. So it's not like we're doing a reunion. Like every band, like hardcore comes around, and I
Yeah.
realized that if I were to press If You're a Viper and shit, I would blow through it, and I could like, you know what I mean?
I would be on the one of the first persons to buy all the different vinyl versions of
Yeah,
that
I mean,
album,
I get
definitely.
it that like we could do a Folsom reunion and go play all the cool hardcore fests, but to me, if it ain't me, Nick, and Bees doing it, like I've done these one-off shows and different variations where
Mhm.
my two brothers weren't playing, and it's lame. Like,
Okay. Got it. I
and I don't have,
get it.
and for me, like I get offers too where people are like, tell me how much, and I'm just like, it's not about the money. I make good money. I'm in a huge band. I'm fulfilled creatively. Like, if there's a time and place where Nick and Bees and me are hanging out and we can all play a show and we would want to, then
Yeah.
maybe it'd feel good. But like playing a show with me and Nick, Matt, Cricket, Bobby Blood, like we did the last one, like that, it's just not, doesn't feel right to me on stage. Like the show's great and kids fucking lose their minds. But
Definitely.
as I'm doing it, I'm thinking, this is whack. You
Yeah.
know, like, it sucks not looking over and having my twin brother up there. So
Yeah,
to me,
definitely.
I don't do things that don't feel right.
Yeah.
You know, as right as it does to do like a benefit show and like that
Mhm.
stuff all feels great. And the
Sure.
kids in Vegas that never got to see us play that are fucking, I'm very flattered that a new generation of kids knows every single word and the shows are crazy and all the old heads come out and it's like Khalil Roundtree's like fucking a top 10 UFC light heavyweight and he's like smashing kids and like dudes that used to come out to junkyard shows are like piling on my head. I love all that. That all feels good, but there's a little piece inside of my gut that's like, this ain't it. And so,
Yeah.
for me, like that's just how I feel about things, you know?
Definitely. You just brought up another memory of mine, East Side Joe's.
Yeah.
I never saw you guys as Folsom play there because I came about like a couple of months after that Spring of Hate show that you did at East Side Joe's, and I think it was summer or spring of 2014. I came like 6 months later, 6 months after that, but that was a fun venue, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, depends on what fun is, you know, if you like sitting in a like little quarter pipe, breathing asbestos and hanging out, which I do. I live down the street, so I went to a ton of shows there. But I
Definitely.
also, those were, you know, I feel, I was talking to this with, who was it? Somebody on that last tour. Oh, Dan from King Nine that
Mhm.
he tours and does merch for Terror. And like, we were just talking about like Vegas shows and,
Yeah.
you know, a guy like that that's been around forever too now, you know, he's like the shows that I was booking at the Hammer House, like these like legendary junkyard shows where like Integrity and Ringworm and fucking Death Threat and Terror and all these bands are playing, you know. He's like to him, he felt like when they came through and then they play East Side Joe's and there's 20 fucking kids and, you know, it's just not a great experience for a touring band. And now it's popping again. And, you know, you got 300 kids at a VFW hall and it's fucking badass.
Yeah.
So like he was talking about like that, like kind of dark ages. And to me, I've been through several of those dark ages in Las Vegas hardcore and metal where it's like, no one's at the shows. The venues probably don't sound the best.
Yeah.
But to me, it's all, we're like cockroaches. 20 kids are what keeps that fucking flame burning until the next wave hits,
Exactly. Wow. I think we need to come to the end because I think you got to go to work or start working.
Yeah, I'm on the clock. Yeah, that's
Okay.
perfect.
Awesome. But we got to do one last thing because we do have an accompanying playlist for the podcast. So I would like you to add a couple of songs to that playlist. So give me one current song that you listen to all the time right now, one legendary song that you think should be on every fucking playlist, and one song that is a guilty pleasure.
Currently, Heaven Passing Through, Turnpike Troubadours.
Oh, yes.
Legendary. Do Integrity, Systems Overload. The 2023 mix, 2022, whenever that was. It'll be on the deluxe one that I think Arthur Risk and Dwayne remix those. Sound great. And then what was the last one you said?
A guilty pleasure.
Guilty pleasure. Guilty pleasure. I mean, I don't think I have any because I don't give a fuck what anybody thinks. But what would be a guilty pleasure? Shit, I don't even know, man. I like the Wallflowers. Like One Headlight, maybe. That's I never got into the Wallflowers or like Jacob Dylan stuff, but Jen has always really dug that record.
Okay.
So I find myself listening to that.
Okay.
But yeah, there you go.
Okay. The Wallflowers. I never actually checked them out. Turnpike Troubadours, obviously one of the best country folk bands that ever was. I'm really glad that they got back together. Is that one of the new songs of the new album?
Yeah, that's off of Price of Admission, the new one they just did. But I think they cut it with Shooter Jennings again.
Okay. Evan, the singer had a spat with, or about with drugs and stuff like that. I think is he clean now? Is he back as a singer?
Yeah, I don't know him personally, but I guess I think that he kind of got lost in the touring and the bottle a little bit, and then when they went on hiatus, he dried out, and I think he reconnected with his wife, and they got a couple kids now, and he's back to doing what he does.
Awesome. Definitely everybody should. Yeah, definitely everybody should check them out.
Fucking so many times everywhere. Like that's a band that everyone I know digs that we go. Me and Jen have like went and watched them in Kane's Ballroom.
I've never seen them live. And they, country bands don't come to Germany. So, or bands like that, it's
cool. They're big now, but like when they first like played Vegas many years ago, there's probably less than 100 people there,
Jesus.
Like at some weird fucking spot on the strip. And then, they're great, man. I love that band.
Definitely. Stu, thank you so much for your time. It was awesome talking to you. I am a little bit homesick for Vegas right now. I could do without the heat, but I think the next time I'm coming over there will be in the fall. Probably not this year, but maybe next year. Who knows? Thank you so much. Any last words? Anything that you want to tell my audience that we haven't talked about yet?
No, I'll just say that be cool. You don't have to be a prick. We live in a world where missiles are flying and everything's pretty divided and contentious on so many levels. Like it's I know we come from a music scene that's full of vitriol and anger and things, but just be cool. Go find what you love and do that. Fill yourself up and try and have a good time, I guess.
Exactly.
all I got to say to the world.
Don't be a dick.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. That's it.
Thank you.